Well, hello and welcome to the Forever Fit with Carol Cavino podcast. I'm your host, Carol Cavino. I'm a fitness and health coach for women over the age of 40 who are struggling with perimenopausal and menopausal hormonal symptoms. I help these ladies to lose the body fat and to tone and strengthen their bodies. I'm very excited about today's show. I have a special guest with me here on the show. Today I have with me Bela Castro. She's a holistic health, lifestyle, and spirituality coach who is re energizing common fitness and nutritional goals by revealing what the motivation is behind these goals. Bella helps people transform the way they think, feel, and even look at themselves. Bella currently lives in Atlanta, Georgia, but is originally from Brazil. At age 18, she moved to the United States to play tennis on a scholarship. When she graduated, she started working at a corporate job where she worked for 4 years. When Bella went through a divorce, she realized that she was not on her path, the right path in her life, and she needed to reestablish herself. She quit her corporate job and began focusing on taking care of her own mental and physical health in a completely different way. She invested time in studying and became certified in psychology, nutrition, and exercise. She created her own company called Be Fit. This stands for focus, intention, and tough, which I cannot wait to dig into those words. Bella believes it's the mindset that starts changing first so we can achieve body awareness. Bella also believes that health equals energy, which I love. The symbol for BFIT is an atom, the smallest quantitative way of measuring energy. And the higher we can bring that energy, the happier we are going to be. She works to shift people from thinking that health is a certain body type or a number on the scale to seeing our health and fitness as our spiritual connection and how we think about ourselves. Welcome to the show, Bella. Thank you so much for being on with me today.
Oh, thank you, Carol. Honestly, it's been amazing how you described this whole entire process of my life in a few words. So thank you so much for putting it out there for the audience. That makes me very happy.
Absolutely. Well, before we hit record on this podcast, we were talking a little bit about how you came from Brazil to the United States and what you saw when you got here as far as the gaps in playing a sport and then taking care of your body. Can you describe that a bit for our listeners?
Yes, I think honestly, for me, as a tennis player, I was fortunate enough to play at a country club where we had every single part of health included. So we had, a nutritionist, we had a therapist, we had everybody that could guide us to become the best possible athlete. And I found that once I first landed in America, that could be something incorporated, especially playing a Division 1, tennis academy. And that wasn't the case. So we had amazing coaching. Definitely, we practiced all the technique and we got stronger and better. But as far as the nutrition goes or the mental health, we didn't have the right tools to help us even in the court to win the matches, right? So what I realized throughout the years, even after graduating, we'll go to the gym, let's say CrossFit or cycling or different modalities, whatever you choose to do with your body, but still there was some components that were missing, right? So people were still stressed, people were still getting depressed and anxious and overwhelmed with their daily jobs, and they were trying to, fill in the gaps with exercising, but there was always missing components. So after a while, after going through a lot of transitions, I realized that I wanted to embody that and help people really get all the fields of health to really become the best versions of themselves, taking care of their nutrition, of their exercising, of their mindset, but also incorporating soul healing into it, because in an energetic standpoint, there's a lot of emotions they're accumulated in the body that we need to release from in order for us to really create sustainable change and create the life that we want. So that's pretty much what I came to the conclusion. And then I was like, okay, this is my time to create something that can help people achieve that.
That's amazing. So you've been playing tennis or had been playing tennis since you were 8 years old, is that correct?
Yes, I was 7 when my dad put me to my first private class. And it's funny because I'm a lefty. I'm lefty, and my coach was training me as a right-handed for a full year. So for a full year, I was thinking that I was not good at tennis. And then when I actually transferred to be left-handed, I started winning tournaments and getting better. And it was very interesting how it all shaped to be the way it is now.
So you
So
were saying it was different in Brazil. They had more support for the athletes as far as the nutrition end of it and massage, trigger point, things like that.
100%. And I don't know if it was just how fortunate the country club that I play for, but I felt that the way that I was, training this whole time was normal. But in reality, it's not normal. Most academies, and even like especially in America, where there's so many sports, and there's so much incentives for different companies and different schools to promote sport as a lifestyle for young adults, and there's still nobody telling them how to eat right or how to think or how to shift some patterns in their mind in order to create this lifestyle. Because as an athlete, in every single sport, you need to have mental toughness. You need to have a certain amount of resilience to start winning some tournaments and start really playing to a high level. So, I think those aspects are extremely important.
I agree that resilience, I mean, you hit it on the nose. That is necessary for in any sport, really. Having done bodybuilding, it's the same thing. You've got to have a mental toughness and resolve along with your skills, your physical skills as well. So
Mm-hmm.
in 2020, you went through a difficult time. Can you describe what happened? I mean, how did you go from tennis and working in a corporate job to being a health and mindset coach?
Yes, that's a very good question. So, a lot of things happened since I got to America. I graduated from business management, and a long time I realized that that was not a decision that I personally would choose if there was nobody watching. So, whenever you start realizing that some decisions that you make throughout your life are based on what other people think, or expect of you, right? Your family or friends or even your spouse. So you
Mhm.
start realizing that the decisions that I made were not actually aligned with who I was. I started feeling empty at my job. I'll go to work and start, okay, what's going on here? Same thing. I actually got involved in a relationship super young. I was 19 when I met my ex-husband. And we dated throughout college, and then we actually got married. And for me, it was very difficult because 2020, that's when I found out the infidelity, and I decided to actually step out of the relationship because for both parts was being very toxic. Um, and that's when everything shifted for me because I went through panic attacks. I went through a lot of transitions. That was in the middle of the pandemic. I don't have my family here with me, so I was alone. My sister, luckily, was able to come here and help me in this process. And it was very, very difficult. So that's when I really faced my fears, my demons. I really had to look myself in the mirror and make a better decision for myself and become my own hero instead of victimizing myself and putting myself in a position where a lot of us go through very difficult times, but we have to start realizing fast enough that everything happens for us, not to us. And when that shifted for me, that's when things really starting happening in my favor. Because that victimizing mentality could really took me under the bus, right? It could be like, oh, he cheated on me. Now my life is going to go really bad and just go and repeat patterns. I could also meet somebody else that will also do the same thing because, sometimes what we do, we tend to see the old patterns and repeat them because they're comfortable, right? And we
Hmm.
associate ourselves with those patterns. So then I got out of the relationship. I moved out from my house and I started realizing how I was not fulfilled in my job. So I did a 180 change. I just decided to start from scratch, create a new reality, create a new identity that I would be proud of, and that was very difficult, but that's when everything happened for me, luckily. So I know 2020 was difficult for everybody who is listening right now. I know that everybody's probably like, okay, she's right. We all went through something. Um, but it's important for us to recognize those things, and get out of that victimizing mentality.
I agree. And I think 2020 was pivotal for many different reasons, obviously, but it shook up what we thought about reality, what we think is secure, and we found out, oh, that's not there. It's gone. Now what I do, it's like having the rug pulled out from underneath you. What do I do? And so I think those panic attacks is that because I've had those my whole entire life, that's been something that I've battled is anxiety much better now because I've learned how to cope and get away from that victim mentality. But it is a feeling of being out of control. I think that's where that comes from. Like you don't have control, and then that anxiety comes in. What really helped you with those anxiety attacks? Because I know I have a lot of listeners that have struggled with the same thing.
I think the biggest thing, and for everybody that listens right now, I mean, just think about closing your eyes and finding that inner peace within you. That's what I did every day. Instead of looking outside and finding happiness in everybody else, in everything else, finding, for example, addictions, finding things that you do repetitively from an outside perspective. Try to find that peace within you, find that happiness within you. What can you do there is under your full control? Your energy and your time. How do you spend your time? Who are you spending with? What are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your energy? Are you elevating your energy, right? Like eating more vibrational foods, exercising more effectively, making sure you have enough rest for your body, making sure you're creating moments where you are getting inspired by, let's say you learn something new, or you are around people that really encourages and uplifts you. And those things are so important. So if you are surrounding yourself with negative people or negative information, if you're surrounding yourself with fast food or foods that are not nourishing your body, if you don't have enough sleep, if you're going to jobs or surrounding yourself in environments that are not really getting the best out of you, those things are really taking a toll on you. And it's your time and your energy, and it's the only thing you can control. So for me, it was starting to shift from having this idea, this illusion that we can control the external world,
Mhm.
and now focusing 100% of how I take full control and responsibility for my life and my choices. That for me, that was the complete shift. And again, going back to the hero versus victimizing mentality, which a lot of times we tend to take, right? It's very easy to blame other people, to blame the environment, to blame the food, to blame the universe. But in reality, it's all within us, It's difficult, but it's the best decision you're ever going to make in your life.
I agree. And you've discovered all this so young. That's what's really impressing me right now. Because I know working with women over the age of 40, and I'm 61, it took me a while to figure things out. And I almost had to go through menopause and all of those physical changes and emotional changes to reach those conclusions that you've reached. So I'm really impressed that you've tapped into this at a young age.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it forced me that pain, and I feel like I transformed the pain that I felt into purpose. Because a lot of times what happens, Carol, is we go through those moments and we let them carry and drag us. And I was tired of it. It was very heavy because not only did I have a difficult relationship with my ex-husband, but I also had with my father, right? Like growing up, I was very controlled by my father, and he a lot of times would impose things on me or doesn't treat me the way I wanted to. So, and then again, you start realizing those are patterns. You are so
Mm-hmm.
comfortable in those patterns and you keep on repeating them until one day you're like, I had enough. I deserve better, you know, and I know there's better out there. I know there's somebody that could treat me the way I wanted. And luckily, I actually found it. Like I had my ex-boyfriend. We're actually taking a break now just because we want to focus on our own stuff. But he was like a light, an angel in my life because I was ready for somebody that could treat me the way I wanted, you know, and a lot of times we have to allow ourselves to receive what we deserve. We don't
Mm.
allow ourselves because we don't think we're enough, because we don't think we're worthy of receiving that love, right? So that's what happens. Sometimes you got to be open and like, okay, I deserve this love. I deserve to nourish my body. I deserve to exercise and feel good, you know, and like really owning that. And I think that's where the transformations start clicking in your head. But it has to come from a place of love.
I absolutely agree 100% with what you just said. I'll often say change your body from a place of love and not from a place of loathing or hate. Because I see that a lot in women. They'll come to me with sometimes an attitude of, oh, I'm lazy. I can't lose weight because I'm lazy, or just really downing themselves and wanting to make these changes because either somebody is pressuring them into it, maybe a husband, a partner, making them feel, okay, you have to lose weight or you have to change your body, or they just really don't love themselves or love their body or how they look. And I think it's fine to say, yes, I want better. I want to eat better. I want to look better. But that change has to come from that place of self-love and not hate, or it never works. It never goes.
Yes. I'm so glad that we're in tune on this topic because it's something that, you know, and I love that we can be a voice right now in this present moment, that everybody that is listening to really tap into this, to really, in these 3 seconds that you're listening to this message, to really understand, like, or maybe even look at yourself and say, what are the labels that I'm putting myself as? Because there's a lot of labels. We label ourselves based on our past experiences, but what about we create the new labels that we want to create for this present moment, right? So if you say, oh, I'm lazy, oh, I'm fat, oh, I'm unhappy, well, you're labeling yourself as that.
Hmm.
Nobody's doing that for you. You're literally putting yourself in that box. So, you know, I'm pretty sure as a coach, you also do that with your clients to where we can really tap into, okay, let's label ourselves as the best and highest self, right? How can we do that? We can start changing our vocabulary, how we talk to ourselves. I wake up every day and I am unapologetically speaking highly of myself. I know I'm beautiful. I know I'm amazing. I know I'm wonderful. I know I'm powerful. And I repeat those words. And hey, my vibration keeps on going high because all those thoughts start, you know, energetically talking to my body, talking to my mind, and I start attracting that. I might start attracting the power, you know, and you can do that to anything. It's the law of attraction, is the law of life, but it has to come again from a place of love. Otherwise, you're going to actually repel what you want. So
Hmm.
if the thing comes from a place of hate, you're actually going to repel what you want. If you say, I don't want to eat this broccoli, but I know I have to because it's gonna, you know, like not make me fat, you're not going to lose weight. If you say, I want to nourish my body and I want to take care of myself, and that's why I want to eat this nourishing broccoli that is going to give me all the vitamins and minerals my body needs. See how it changes the perspective of it and how actually your body is going to welcome this amazing food that you're putting in your body. So, really, like it's all about the way you talk to yourself, the way you nourish yourself and love yourself.
Yes, I agree. Could not agree more. You hit on nutrition
Mm-hmm.
with, I heard a statistic recently. I know before the pandemic, it was 86% of Americans are considered metabolically inflexible in some way. And now I hear that it's closer to 92%, with metabolic flexibility, meaning the ability of our bodies to reach for both fat for fuel and carbohydrates or sugar for fuel. So having that flexibility rather than just being sugar burners, of feeding that constant need to have carbohydrates, sugar as the main source, and typically refined carbohydrates as the main source of energy. What is your philosophy on all this? What is your thinking? How do you work with clients on metabolism?
So of course, I work on exercising, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I work on high intensive exercising where we are building strength, endurance, flexibility, mobility, and also cardiovascular resilience, which is very important, right? Our heart rate needs to be very regulated, which a lot of times it's not. So I try to help those 5 areas as far as the body goes, so we can increase the metabolic rate, the optimize the body in that level. Then the second part is the nutrition. Of course, the nutrition is 80 to 90% of the results, which a lot of people forget. So exercising is fantastic. Knowing your body is very important, but nourishing your body and knowing that the food that you're consuming is really composing every cell of your body, and your gut is your first brain. Pretty much there's studies that have been proving that everything that you feed your gut will become your brain. And imagine the effect that it has on how your hormonal balance happens, right? Because your hormones are the direct messengers of your body. They're literally sending messages to everybody, every cell of your body right now as we speak, on how to metabolize, how to consume the energy that you are having in your body, how to break down those minerals and vitamins, right? So whenever you nourish your body and you know that is a nutrient dense food, you know that automatically your gut is going to be happier. Automatically your gut flora, which is the bacteria and the enzymes they're breaking down that food, is going to be more diversified. And that's how the microbiome, which is again the diversification of that system within you, is going to break down the food that you eat. Again, I don't want to get super technical here, but it's very important to know that every single thing that enters your body that gets to your gut needs to be metabolized, needs to be break down. And the more you can exponentially increase the enzymes and bacteria there, they are receiving the food and breaking down those minerals, vitamins, micronutrients, it's very important. If you keep on consuming the same thing, right? If you go and have a bagel for breakfast, you have a sandwich for lunch, you had a pizza for dinner, that's just, again, the
Mm-hmm.
refined sugars with no, literally, there's nothing there that is actually going to be great for your body to, again, be increasing the metabolic rate. Now, let's say you have a smoothie for breakfast. You have like a plate full of grains and vegetables and fish for lunch. And then you had like a very amazing, well made salad for dinner. And then you have snacks, fruits, nuts throughout the day. Like, look how much more variety of nutrients does your body receive, and how much more capabilities you're going to have. Your productivity is going to go up. Your energy level is going to go up. Your metabolic rate is going to go up. Your whole entire system from within is going to feel so much better, and not necessarily need to change completely from one day to the other, which most people try to do radical changes, and that's how they fail. The reality is, let's find alternatives for what you love. You like bread? Fantastic. There's breads that don't need to be white. They can be with more fiber, with more nuts inside of it, with, maybe multi-grain. You can make adjustments to adapt to that, right? And the same with fruits. Like, let's say you just like banana and apples. Okay, try to make stuff that includes those banana and apples in it. Broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, leafy greens, all those have so many nutrients. You can blend them in on your smoothies, for example, right? So just making little strategies behind your food system to make it sustainable for you.
I think that feeling of deprivation is a huge problem. The minute we as human beings experience that feeling of, oh, I can't have that, we want it. And I went through this with my first bodybuilding show in particular. The minute things were off the table, like bread or sweets, I obsessed over them. So I think rather than elimination, finding those food swaps, okay, I'm not having this, but what can I have in its place, is a better way of looking at it.
Yes, 100%. And I always there's my friend told me the other day, there's a new nutrition plan that talks about how to add versus subtract. So you're
Hmm.
gonna be adding more fruits. Let's say you eat a brownie, but on the side of the brownie you have some strawberries, and you first eat the strawberries. So then you're not gonna have that need of eating three brownies. You're gonna have few strawberries and that brownie, right? So you still consuming your brownie that you love, but before you making sure your body is receiving those nutrients from the strawberry. So that way it's, you're still giving it what it wants and what it needs. It's so important. Same with, like, let's say you love pizza. You're like, oh my gosh, I cannot live without pizza. Maybe find a cauliflower crust pizza, like, something a little bit healthier, and then put a salad on the side, based on like a dressing that you like, that it has less sugar. Um, Even cooking with less oils, things like that, right? So just adaptations that slowly can really shift how your body receives the information and the food and the energy that is coming from within. So I completely agree on the swap. It's so important.
Yeah, it leaves less room. You're kind of crowding out the things that we shouldn't have in a sense, because if you're having more fruit, you're eating more quality protein. You're not as hungry, protein satiating. So there's less room. I know that's what made a difference for me. It was just gradually shifting my nutrition over time. And then things got a little easier and a little easier. And then you add water and you add exercise into that, and you stop wanting to put that junk in. Like I no longer, like, I'll crave something here and there, like a pizza, but I no longer have this need for certain refined foods. I would so much prefer to have whole nutritious foods.
Yes. And now I'm sure that you and I have this thing in common, because I used to be obsessed with sugar to a point that I thought that I couldn't survive without it, like I couldn't go a day without having a lot of sugar. And sugar is addicting. It has the same effect as cocaine.
It
So
does.
if you can only imagine the effect that it has on your body, right? You get angry, you get upset when you don't have it. You feel like the world is against you if you don't have your chocolate, your ice cream, or whatever. So you need to stop for a minute and just analyze, is this really contributing to my growth? Is this really helping me become the best version of myself? And a lot of times it's not, because it's causing inflammation in the body, it's causing inflammation on the mind. Your mind, your prefrontal cortex, which is like the decision making of your brain, it's not working properly because of the amount of sugar you have been consuming. Just for that reason alone, you should make a better decision from that standpoint, right? The inflammation on your body, your metabolic rate is compromised by the amount of sugar you're feeding your body with, right? And you can easily see, for example, let's say somebody that is addicted to Coca-Cola. They stop drinking Coca-Cola that has 35 to 40 grams of sugar per can. And that's absolutely crazy, because some people drink 3, 4,
Mhm.
5 Coca-Colas, right? And it gets addicting. When they stop just that one little thing, they will see a drastic change on their mood, on their behavior, because your body also, it's a very important topic here for us to say that your serotonin in your gut is 90 to 95% in there, right? So if your happy hormone is being produced and released by what you eat, imagine the impact that it has if you're just feeding sugar. And then you wonder why you have these mood changes, why you have these mood swings, right? So even from that standpoint, it's so important for us to understand that I'm here, like, talking to the audience and causing a little bit of pain. So you guys can start shifting a little bit of your behaviors, a little bit of, feeling that, oh my gosh, that's so true. Like, maybe I'm lacking of productivity. Maybe I'm having mood swings. Maybe I feel the inflammation, the bloatedness in my body. And it has to do with what you're eating a lot of times, right?
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Well, glucose can be toxic in excessive amounts in the brain, that blood sugar, which I think a lot of people don't understand that. So some of that brain fog and anxiety and depression can be linked to what is on the end of our fork, what we're putting in our body. And the gut microbiome is so exciting because we're just now cracking the surface. There's so much we don't know. I was hearing yesterday that there are more cells contained in the microbiome than anywhere else in your body. And it's just, it's exciting. It's exciting. But a good part of our immune system, I know, is housed there. There is that gut-brain connection, which, like I said, we're just tapping into. It's an exciting time for all of that.
Yes, I mean, the first cells that we developed as a little baby in my our mom's womb, it's, the gut and the brain, and they're connected in the beginning. So for you to just know that the separation of that becomes you as a human being, and knowing the power that the gut and the brain have together to make better choices, and then you see your heart beating and all these things, and then you're a human being because you have all these different organs that work together for you to be alive, for you to be happy, for you, and then on the outside world, you're there being disconnected with that purpose, with that realization of like, wow, I'm a human being, I have an entire system working for me. How can I love the system a little bit more? How can I love myself a little bit more every day, right? Because you're a miracle. Like, we're all miracles. We're gifts from the universe. We're here as, a little drop of love in this universe. And if we just think about that, right? How can we take care of our bodies? Because the body is the house of the soul, is the house of, this is the body that we have for this life. So how are we taking care of it? Are we just letting it go? Or how can we take charge and start taking care of what is ours?
I love that. We've talked a little bit about mindset all the way through here. And something I was thinking about, I'm writing a book right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I have three pillars to how I do my programs, which is the nutrition, the movement and exercise, and the mindset. And I mentioned this in the book. The editor was going back through and she came back with me with, they give you little comments and things that you should add, take out. And she said, "Well, you don't address mindset anywhere in the book." And in my way of thinking, I had addressed it all the way through. And I realized, oh, that term is so vague and means different things to different people. And in my way of thinking, mindset could not be separated from the physical. That your attention to nutrition is mindset, your attention to sleep is mindset, to meditation, to stress relief. But she was seeing it as something completely separate. So, where I'm going with all this is, how do you view mindset?
All right. So mindset is very powerful, right? We have three parts of the brain. And those three parts are so powerful. We have the instinct brain, that is associated with our five senses, with our involuntary system. We have our emotional brain, which is making the choices, like how do we react and how are emotions affecting us? Are they becoming our mood, our personality? And then we have our conscious and rational mind. And they are affecting us in every cellular level. So, yes, they are connected with the body because your instincts are, let's say you put a hand on fire, you're going to remove it, but that's your body giving that reaction, right? Your involuntary system is taking care of all the organs of your body right now. Your heart is beating without you knowing. Your brain is working and delivering messages through your body without you even thinking about it, right? So yes, that's a part of your brain that is completely associated with your instincts and your ability to just move as an animal. Then you have your emotional side, which is extremely powerful, but we also have to understand that emotions are also stuck in the body. There's a lot of inflammation that right now you probably know that a lot of people in this world have because they're not being able to deal with their own emotions. What I like to work with is on a soul level too, to understand what their emotions are from childhood trauma, from, adulthood. There's so much stuff that happens throughout our lives that we're not addressing. They're still stuck within us. They're shaping our behaviors, right? And that emotional side is directly impacting our triggering system, how we react, how we make choices, how we behave around other people. The entire personality and the identity of the person is being based on those emotions that have been carried and dragging with us our personality. Let's say if I got stuck on the mentality that I'll be cheated on my whole entire life, I will never attract a person that will treat me the way I was, that I want. But I had to shift patterns in my mind to know my worth. Or I could get stuck in that same limbo, right? And again, I see life as a video game where if you are adapting and learning from your emotions, you can get to the next level. But if you can continue to repeat patterns on your emotions and let those negative emotions become your mood and your personality and your identity, then you're not going to move to the next level, right? So you have to disassociate the emotional side with your physical body and know that exercising, eating better, practicing mindfulness can really release that trauma from your body, the emotional baggage that you're carrying with you the whole life. And then on the next level is the conscious mind, which is the one that's making the irrational decisions based on your instinct and emotions. So now using 5% of your brain, because that's your conscious is only 5% out of the 100, you have only 5% that is making the top executive decisions. So if you imagine like the 95% is stuck in your body because it's much easier to lay down than stand up and exercise. It's much easier to stay in your past behaviors and triggers and then make a different habit change. And we all know that because if change was easy, everybody would be a billionaire with the best body ever, with the best relationships ever, right? Because that's all we want. We want, success financially and professionally. We want the best relationships possible, and we want the best health. So if we want the three common goals, and if we use our conscious mind to make better decisions, to understand our instincts, to understand our emotions, and to leverage those two things to create that better life, we are going to be a complete different humanity. We just need to use that conscious little mind.
Yes, it can be difficult to tap into because we are so used to going by habit and old habits and old patterns and old thoughts. I know that I try to interrupt my thinking patterns sometimes when the thoughts in my head are looping around, that little voice saying something very negative, and you have to become aware of that and say, is that really true? And replace that thought with something else, because once you get rid of that, you've got to fill that void with a new habit, a new way of thinking. But what I really like is you hit on the stored trauma in the body, which I think a lot of people don't really understand. That the first time I heard of storing trauma in the body was, about 3 years ago, and it was from a client who said, I had trauma as a child and it's stored in my legs. And she says, I can never define my legs. I can never get them. And I thought, this doesn't make any sense. And I looked at the pictures, and sure enough, there was one way her body was looking kind of hard to explain from the waist up. And then you could see this way that her legs were looking, and it wasn't body fat, and it wasn't cellulite, and it wasn't any of those things that you think about. But you could just see that stored trauma. It's hard to explain. And since then, I've been keyed into that because what I see with women, especially as they're approaching menopause, if they have shoved something to the back of their mind, something that happened in the past, something disappointing, something traumatic, something from their childhood. It will suddenly be knocking at the door like, hey, you never dealt with me. I'm over here. Deal with me. And I experienced it myself, my own personal experience, having to unpack, deal with, process this past trauma in order to move forward because it was just this block. So you hitting on that, I think, is so important. A lot of women, I work primarily with women, so I'm speaking into that, but I do see it when women hit midlife that it just comes to the surface.
100%. And I'm gonna tell you that happens even beyond that, before that, right? Because we continue to repeat patterns throughout our whole entire life until one day we feel like, okay, well, this is enough. Physically, mentally, emotionally, biochemically, right? Some people really get sick. They have, disorders that come out of nowhere, and nobody wonders, oh, why is this person sick? She looks so happy. Well, she's stucking up a lot of emotions this whole time. And that happens with a lot of men also. You see, men can still go to the gym, still sometimes eat healthy, but they're still stuck in all that in energy, that emotion in their body. And then out of nowhere, they have a heart attack and die at the gym, right? 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did that happen? We
Mm-hmm.
have a huge amount of men not knowing how to understand their emotional side because they are taught how to prevent themselves from feeling. And we are emotional beings. We all are, men and women. Of course, the rational side of men are more developed and is more used because we socially condition men to be that way. So now there's also a gap between men and women. We see a lot of relationships not being well resolved due to this lack of let's understand each other here, let's open up, let's be more vulnerable with each other, let's dive deep, like what is bothering you, what are some the traumas that you had faced growing up. I wish I had that growing up, right? Like that ability to talk about those things and be okay with it. But it still is a taboo for most men and women to even open up like that, to open that container of, hey, let's share, because we're all humans. We all gone through stuff, right? Like somebody didn't love us the way we wanted. Somebody that we loved went away. Like it could be from parents, from friends, from society in general, that have been triggering us to act a certain way. So it's very important for us to tap into that as young and early as possible, so that way we can prevent those things from coming up, especially, like you said, after menopause, because there's also biochemical changes in our
Mm-hmm.
bodies that influence those emotions to come even stronger to the surface.
It's interesting. I recently learned that when you lose estrogen or estrogen lowers as you go through that process, it's a people-pleasing hormone. And I thought, well, that explains a lot. It explains why suddenly like you're having this you're having this realization of, well, I don't want to just be a people pleaser. I want to do things for me.
Yes, and I actually just came to this realization the other day because I was the biggest people pleaser you can possibly think. I would
Same.
just lay on the ground and people step on me, and I'll be,
Hmm.
thank you so much for stepping on me. So that was the level of unconscious that I was living in, because that's how I was raised. And I was raised in a Catholic background where, we always look for the other, but never look at ourselves. We always help others, but ourselves. So now tapping into this and filling my cup so much every day. Now I'm overboarding love. Like I have so much love to give. And for me, people pleasing now for me is part of my life, but in a completely different connotation. I'm filling my cup first so I can pour
Hmm.
into yours. So I can
Hmm.
give you all the love and admiration and attention that I can possibly give, because I have so much for myself. So, a lot of people fill their cup, but they stay with the same energy within. But then what? You're not improving nobody. You're not impacting other people's lives. So no, you overboarding love. Just let it flow through other people. Let other people feel that love too. There's so much lack of love because we're trying to focus on other people but ourselves. If we fill our cups, everybody will be amazing right now, right? Everybody will feel so great from within, taking care of their mental, physical, and spiritual health, and really feeling that love and being able to, in your relationship, let's say if you have kids, if you have a spouse, if you have a family, friends, you'll be able to give so much more love with no resentment, with no judgment, with no boundaries, because you're going to have so much to give. And that's how I want to help people see themselves.
Well, you hit it on the head with the resentment because I think sometimes people give, but then maybe it's really something they don't want to do. They say yes to something, helping somebody or some type of project. I've done it. And then you're just over there stewing and it's all wrong. Where if you fill yourself and then you say yes to the right things, the things that light you up, that's when you're able to help others. I mean, I always think of that scenario of they tell us on the plane to, get your oxygen mask first before you help your child. And that to me is the best, the best analogy. And, having raised three kids, I remember that in order to be a good mom, I had to have alone time. I had to have, and my husband was great to give me that time to reflect, time to fill my soul back up. Okay, now I'm ready to be mom. So,
That's
so
so amazing
important.
that you did that already, you know. You live for yourself along with helping your kids. Like that's so amazing. And I wanna like, every person that is listening to this messages that we are both here combining, bringing to you guys to understand that as a mom, as a spouse, you need to give yourself that love first, because your child and your husband and or your wife or whoever is going to admire you so much more for taking care of yourself. I wish my mom would put boundaries on her life. Like today,
Same.
I look back to my mom and I saw how submissive she was and how
Hmm.
she put herself in positions to never take care of herself. And then I thought that was a standard. And that's why I did the same to myself, because you normally look up to your family, to your parents, right? So you always see them as examples and you follow the same patterns. So I wish my mom was like, no, I'm going to exercise. I'm going to take care of myself. I will still have time with you. But trust me, I'm going to take care of me first because I love myself. And I want you to love yourself as much as I love me. Right. And then it changes the whole connotation of the relationship you have with your child, but also with your husband. Like, hey, I need to take care of me first so I can then give you all the love that you deserve. And it's so much healthier that way. There's no codependency, it's interdependency, and that's how relationships should be.
Yes. And so important to see those examples from parents and to be able to break that. I'm thinking of breaking that chain that can go on from generation to generation of trauma passed down. I know my mom was very submissive as well. I was raised in that type of environment. And of course, the times were like that. Historically, the times were like that for women. And it's work to move past that and do something different.
Yes, it's so beautiful when we see those generation patterns changing. My dad actually called me on my birthday and he's like, I'm so glad that you are going to be a better version that I could be for you.
Oh,
And that really hit me.
oh, it's
The fact
beautiful.
that he was able to understand. He's like, I know that I had a lot of flaws raising you and your sister, and now he's like seeing that we are, even though we did experience that, we're not repeating the same patterns that he repeated from his dad.
Yes.
And that's beautiful. And I feel like that also comes from a lot of information that is out there. We have a lot of more availability to experience different cultures, different backgrounds, different information that our parents did. So we also have to be compassionate to the fact that they didn't know any better. My dad was raised in a small city. They never had the internet back in the day.
Hmm.
There's not that much information. So you did repeat patterns because, of course, there was not so much availability to growth like we have today. So we are experiencing a huge shift energetically in this world today with so much technology, but we got to start using that to our advantage.
Yes, responsibly. It's out there, all this technology at our fingertips, and the worldwide internet and social media. And there's negative things to that, but I think if we handle it responsibly, like, hey, look what we've been given, this gift that can be used in a positive way.
100%. And that's why I think that being a coach and also having coaches myself, it's very important to rely on each other too, for that accountability. Because sometimes you have to be humble enough to know there's people ahead of you, there are people that have a clear path to where you are trying to get,
Yes.
and that they can give you the support and attention that you deserve, and we're not in this world alone. We can grow so much faster if we can just admit to ourselves, like, hey, I know somebody's in the process of getting to where I want much faster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go and reach out to that person and talk to that person and grow with that person, you know, and it's powerful. And I think that people need to understand that. And that's why the coaching industry is growing so much. It's because now we are starting to realize after the pandemic that we are not alone in this world, that we can count on other people too.
Yes, connection is important, and we have learned that, I do believe, from the pandemic. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, Bella. As we wrap up, can you tell a little bit about your program to the listeners?
Yes, of course. I'm actually very excited because I'm launching a new program. It's going to be up in the month of November and December. We're starting a mastermind of 3 months where we're going to focus on healing the first month. Then we're going to be connecting, and then we're going to be glowing. And after the 3 months of really working in depth into our soul, our mind, our body, we're going to have an entire retreat somewhere, a destination beautiful, where I'm thinking about Tulum, Mexico. So in the end of the day, we're going to be growing together. There's only 20 spots available. So as soon as I launch it, I would love to share with you guys. But for now, I would say to highly encourage you to follow me on Instagram, Be Fit by Bella. And I think this program is going to be up and running here the next week or so. So be on the lookout for that. Uh, and let's make transformations happen.
Sounds amazing. I love the idea of a retreat too, to kind of solidify everything that you're taking these individuals through. Well, thank you so much, Bella. I appreciate your time today. It was just wonderful to chat with you. We will make sure that in the show notes there's the link to your Instagram. And
Of
just thank you
course.
so much.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day, Carol. Thank you.
Thank you. And to our listeners, wherever you are in the world, we wish you every blessing. Bye for now.